Happy Monday, everyone. John Lorden here with your episode of Brain Scratch, Case Cracked. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Before we jump into today's case, I want to let you know about something special coming up. As far as I know, I'm only going to be making 2 appearances this year. One of them, of course, is at CrimeCon, but I have another one that's popping up actually before that. So if you're in the New York area and you want to meet me, I think there might be a way to do that. I will be at the American Investigative Society's Cold Case Conference, and I'm going to be there with some other people you might know. Tim and Lance from Crawl Space are going to be there, and Mike Morford, the true crime guy, also one of the co-hosts on 3 Men and a Mystery, is also going to be there. We're going to be doing a panel together where we're talking about social media and helping cold cases. On top of that, there's some other really great guests. They've got Aphrodite Jones from True Crime, Dr. Cyril Wecht. If you've been looking into cases, you've probably heard of his name before, very respected, and Dr. Henry Lee, another name that you might know of from the true crime realm. It takes place April 15th and 16th in Albany, New York. You can learn more or register at www.aisocc.com. And if you want to come, be sure to register soon. There's a deadline of April 2nd for registration. All right, so Christy Arnhart and I have been working very hard on a case for you here today. Missing persons case, maybe with a bit of a happy ending. I call this one the Ungood Samaritan. What could be more fun than drinks and live music with friends on a Saturday night in Boston? On January 19th, 2019, 23-year-old twin sisters Olivia and Francesca Ambrose were determined to find out. The sisters lived separately, but remained very close, sometimes FaceTiming each other while they watched Netflix or did household chores. But on this night, they were together and looking for a good time. Until Olivia went missing. Francesca said she saw Olivia on the dance floor at 11 p.m. at Hennessy's bar talking with a stranger. Investigators say surveillance cameras show her outside with a man who'd been kicked out of the bar. Several minutes later, they left together. The man would be found and ruled out by investigators as being involved in Olivia's disappearance. Hours went by without Francesca seeing or talking to her sister, and when Olivia didn't answer her phone on Sunday, Francesca went over to her apartment. Quote, "She hadn't been there. It was set up for her to come home with pajamas on her bed and everything," said Francesca Ambrose. At just after 5 p.m. that evening, in a panic, Francesca reported her sister missing and then used a tracking app called Find My Phone to locate Olivia's phone. The app showed its last location to be at Walford Way and Corey Street in the Charlestown area at about 12:30 a.m. the night Olivia disappeared. Disappointingly, the phone was then turned off and gave Francesca no further clues on where her sister was after that. Investigators would spend that night and Monday scouring Charlestown for Olivia. Her mother, Heather Ambrose, stated, "She was supposed to meet with her workmates on Sunday. They had a tentative arrangement, and then she had a doctor's appointment this morning, and she hasn't shown up." As investigators searched for Olivia, they started piecing together where she had been the night she disappeared, heavily relying on CCTV footage and, of course, that information from her sister. At 11:37 p.m., cameras captured Olivia at Union and North Streets near the White Bull Bar. She appeared intoxicated and was having difficulty walking. A minute later, 2 men are seen approaching her as she crossed North Street. They proceeded to follow her as she went up Congress Street. By 12:04 a.m., they are near a subway station. One of the men is seen on Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority video with his arm around Olivia, appearing to guide her. That same man, over the next 15 minutes, is seen holding on to Olivia as they walk through Charlestown. Quote, "It's obvious from the video surveillance that she did not go along willingly," said Boston Police Commissioner William Gross. At 12:30 a.m., surveillance cameras pick her up, appearing to stagger while she crosses the street at Congress and North, with the man shown in all of the CCTV footage following just a short distance behind, eventually catching up to her again and putting his arm around her waist. Investigators say he appeared to direct her toward a State Street subway station. They used the CCTV footage to capture some images of the mystery man and distributed those images to the press. Early Tuesday afternoon, officers were deployed to Charlestown to canvass the neighborhood looking for Olivia. They were quickly able to find locals who recognized the picture of the man from the video footage. His name was Victor Pena. That same morning, investigators got word that Olivia's mother was receiving text messages from her daughter. Olivia's phone was back on, allowing authorities to track it and give them her exact location. It led them to the apartment complex of Victor Pena. They knocked on his door for nearly 20 minutes and received no answer. Investigators then got a maintenance worker for the building to come up with a drill in order to break through several locks, including one that Pena had installed himself. Before all the locks could be drilled through, the door was unlocked and opened from inside. Investigators could see Olivia standing next to Pena. She was crying uncontrollably and had a horrified look on her face. Quickly, they separated the two as Pena resisted violently. Olivia told police that Pena had took her phone and held her against her will. She was taken to Massachusetts General Hospital for evaluation. Now they had to ask themselves, who is Victor Pena? Pena had lived in the housing project apartment complex in Charlestown where the phone pinged for about a decade. Many residents describe him as bizarre and frightening, known for hurling feces from his window and leering at young girls. One resident said Pena had tried to lure her teenage cousin inside his house, but that luckily the girl had run away. For years, Pena had lived on the fringes of society, passing through homeless shelters before landing in public housing, where a relative said he hoarded books and stuffed animals. Transit police reported multiple run-ins with Pena over the past 10 years, including one 2009 instance when a woman reported him following her on the subway and trying to look up her skirt. He was ejected from the station, but not arrested. Court documents dating back 15 years show that Pena had long been accused of threatening and attacking women. He has hit me, he has forced me to have sex, and he has insulted me constantly, wrote an ex-girlfriend in her application for a restraining order in 2004. My children are scared of him. Pena also tried to break into her apartment, circled her building while hurling insults, and called her up to 10 times a day. No criminal charges were filed against Pena in connection with her allegations. A few years later, in 2008, another woman who had a child with Pena accused him of trapping her in his sister's house during a fight. He shut the door, told her she wasn't going anywhere, and proceeded to grab her neck. Again, no criminal charges were filed. Another woman filed a restraining order against him after dating Pena briefly in 2012. He began doing strange things, accusing her of stealing and hoarding random objects like old cell phones. Finally, she broke up with him after he approached her in his apartment one day with his hand behind his back. He acted as if he were hiding something. I'm going to ask you a question. How would you like to die? Slowly or quickly, he asked her. She fled the apartment and never returned. A third girlfriend in 2013 wrote in a restraining order application that Pena punched her and began calling and messaging her with explicit and humiliating sexual taunts when she broke off their 2-month relationship. He also broke into her car and threatened to poison her dogs. Yet again, no criminal charges were filed. So, how did Pena keep Olivia in his apartment for nearly 3 days? One of his ex-girlfriends recalls a lock on his door, one that needed a key on both sides. So it wouldn't only keep people out, it could also keep people in. She told a reporter, once you were inside his apartment, you don't go outside. He won't open the door with the key. You don't go outside. Wendy Murphy, writing for the Boston Herald, commented, not prosecuting guys like Pena always leads to an escalation of violence. They learn quickly that they can do what they want and get away with it. The revolving door at the courthouse is a disturbing commentary on the value of women's lives and a reminder to abusers that they can do it again and again without repercussion. Pena's older brother, Jose, sees a very different side to Victor's story. He says that his brother's mental capacity was sharply reduced at about 7 years old when his family found him in his room suffering from a medical problem that had cut off oxygen to his brain. Quote, "For us, seeing him kidnap her is out of the question. There's not a doubt he didn't do it. He would not kidnap this girl." Jose insists that the alleged kidnapping has grown out of a misunderstanding. "My brother is slow. He's 38, but mentally he's 17, 18, so he's like a teenager." Jose Pena, who lives in New Jersey, said his brother told him he met Ambrose Saturday night, and she went willingly to his apartment to spend the night. On Sunday morning, Olivia said she was afraid her father would be mad at her for staying the night and decided to stay longer, which is interesting considering she had her own apartment and was 23 years old. Jose comments, "If she'd had been kidnapped, she would be with a rope or something in her mouth. When police opened the door, she was standing right there next to my brother in the kitchen. I can guarantee something is missing here." Jose Pena says his brother is harmless, that he is a hoarder, stuffing his apartment with books, papers, and toys, and that his brother told him Olivia was cleaning it for him. He also denied that his brother ever hurt or sexually assaulted any woman and said that his brother's problems with women sometimes arose because of his mental problems. Quote, "He can be like staring at you, but he's in his own world," Jose Pena said. Victor Pena sobbed and appeared to talk to himself in Charlestown Municipal Court as a plea of not guilty was entered on his behalf to a charge of kidnapping. He was then ordered to undergo a mental competency evaluation at Bridgewater State Hospital. A court psychologist testified that when she spoke with Pena, he sucked his thumb and prayed for forgiveness, claimed to hear voices, and had reported being forced to snort cocaine in the past. She said he did not appear to know why he was in court, but also that he may have been exaggerating some of the symptoms of his mental impairment. Police say that additional charges could be filed, but they've remained tight-lipped about what happened during the 3 days Ambrose was with Pena. It appears that Pena is also losing his home. Boston's public housing czar said that officials are working to evict Pena from his apartment. "Given recent developments, we will move with all deliberate speed with eviction proceedings," a statement read. "The safety of our residents and neighbors is our highest priority." In the case of missing person Olivia Ambrose, we thankfully have our answer. Heather Ambrose, Olivia's mother, commented, "We are beyond happy to have Livy home. We are grateful, and we know that many times the outcome isn't this." But questions do still remain. Will Pena face justice? Is he even capable of standing trial? And there's some question of should he be held responsible? Let's chat about that in the comments below. But for now, I'm calling this a case cracked. We like to feature cases where a missing person is found. It doesn't always happen on the cases we cover on Searchlight. So I definitely look for those types of stories when we're talking about Case Cracked. And this one's super recent. We're talking just January of this year that this all went down. That's part of why I wanted to share it. Is there really lessons that we could learn from it? Possibly just about when you go out with your friends, be sure that you stay with them, particularly if you're feeling like you're maybe having a little too much to drink. But outside of that, I don't know. This is a really strange situation where it's a little bit of a crime of opportunity, but it's strange that there's this pattern that he has of doing this time and time again. And I got to tell you guys, when I bumped into a video clip of one of his ex-girlfriends talking specifically about this special lock he had put on his door where he could lock it from the inside, it just really blew my mind. If you ever see someone that has a lock like that, I think the first thing I would do is wonder why. What are they looking to lock inside and not just keep things from outside? Really, really strange. And just to be clear, I don't have solid confirmation that that is the same type of lock he had in his apartment. The comments that his girlfriend were making made it seem like it was in an apartment where he had that lock. I don't know if it's the same apartment, but In some articles, they're being very clear that he did install some locks himself. That's part of the reason why when police went to the people that work for the building, they couldn't just use a master key to get in, and they had to bring a drill and start drilling through those locks. So definitely a lock that was installed by him. I can't say with 100% certainty that it was that locking on both sides mechanism, but it does answer a pretty big question I have about this case, which is why would Olivia have stayed there? Certainly within 3 days, this guy had to fall asleep at some point, and couldn't she have just gone out the door then? Maybe not, if we're talking about this same situation that one of his ex-girlfriends faced with that lock that locks from the inside. So before we end today's video, I have to thank several new patrons. Thank you guys so much. You are a huge part of the channel, keeping me here, able to do this, and I truly appreciate you guys. New patrons, Jody Bell, Simply S, thank you, Christy McDonald, Abby Allen, and Jenny Moore. Thank each and every one of you for joining Patreon. I really appreciate it. On top of that, I want to give a very big and special thank you to Julie Miller, aka Wicked, who has increased. She didn't increase it. She increased her pledge. Thank you so much, Julie. I really, really appreciate that. I'll be back on Wednesday with another episode of Searchlight, a brand new case for us to all look into. Hope you will join me there right here on the Lord and Arts channel.